Hey everyone. So today I was just going to talk about what it was like for me being inpatient in like a general hospital, not an eating disorder clinic. That's where I spent the majority of the time, just because we don't have an eating disorder treatment center where I live. The unit that I was on was the psych ward inpatient, and I guess it wasn't like the greatest experience ever, like especially for somebody with an eating disorder. I think being someplace that specializes in eating disorders would be better, but like I said before, we don't have any treatment centers where I live, so that's where I was put for pretty much, well, every time that I went inpatient. The unit was kind of scary at times. Well, it could get kind of scary just because there's different people there for different reasons. So like the first time that I was admitted to the hospital, it was quite a shock, just because I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, every time I went back there, like I knew what to expect, but yeah, there's a lot of different issues that go on there. So when I first got to the inpatient unit, I was put on 1-to-1, so that means that I'd have a nurse sitting with me 24/7. I had to be supervised at all times, so like during the night, during the day, like all the time. So they would just sit like outside my room, or not outside my room, they'd have a chair like inside my room and just like sit there basically all day with me. I was on bed rest for the majority of the time, so I wasn't allowed to walk anywhere. I had to be in a wheelchair if I did like even use the washroom or like went to go use a shower. And I had to be monitored when I went to the bathroom too. They had to stand either like inside or like watch me outside the door. Also when I showered too, they had to come in the shower with me and supervise me. I was only allowed 10-minute showers, which were supervised. So that took a lot of getting used to at first because I literally had no privacy. They watched everything. I wasn't allowed my clothes at all either. I had to stay in a hospital gown, and for the majority of the time anyways, which wasn't the greatest, just because, I don't know, I felt a lot more comfortable in my own clothes. In my 1-to-1, they would watch me too while I ate. I wasn't allowed to go outside of my room, like in the dining hall, for meals at all. I was in my room all the time for my meals, because I had to be watched. So usually when I had a meal, they had a tray that it was placed in the middle of the room. I had my chair, and the nurse had to be sitting directly across from me, watching me. I had to have both feet on the ground. They weren't allowed to be crossed or anything. I wasn't allowed to have like my phone or iPad or anything, nothing, no distractions, I guess. While I was eating, I had a time limit of 30 minutes to complete my meals, and it was 15 minutes, I think, for snacks. And if I didn't finish, then my food would get taken away. In the general hospital, it wasn't like in the eating disorder treatment center, where if you didn't finish, you had to like replace or supplement it with an Ensure or something. If you refused food, or if you didn't finish food, like that was the only chance. You didn't have to like supplement it with anything. It was just like taken away from you. So that was a little bit different. I don't know, I use that a lot. especially the first time around being in the hospital. I refused food lots and I just wouldn't eat. And well, there wasn't really any consequences, I guess. I didn't have to replace it or anything. So yeah, I was like really stubborn with that. I learned eventually like you had to eat, otherwise like they'll make you gain weight, like doesn't matter. Like I got threatened with the tube lots initially, and which like it did happen, and that's what happened a lot of my admissions too. If I wasn't eating, I was getting all the like my nutrients and calories through an NG tube. So typically there was 3 meals: your breakfast, lunch, and supper. Snacks varied depending on which stage I was in my refeeding and I guess my meal plan. Initially, like we started off slow, so I didn't really have too much snacks. So maybe I'd have like 1 snack throughout the day, and eventually, like depending on how my weight was and how fast I was progressing, or how slow I was progressing, we'd add more. So it did get up to sometimes 3 snacks a day too, 2 to 3 snacks. So like an AM snack, a PM snack, and then an evening snack. Usually though it was only 2. I didn't really have to do the evening snack, especially when I had the NG tube, because I was getting the majority of like the food through that, which made things easier too, because I found it really hard just to be like constantly eating, because it felt like after I just finished a meal, then I was having to have my snack, and then I was having to have another meal, and it just like my stomach couldn't handle it, and I just felt full like all the time. So I am like really grateful that I did have the NG tube too, so I didn't have to eat like as much food, I guess, or a normal amount of food, and then the tube just helped me to like supplement, I don't know, to help me get in those extra calories to gain the weight, because gaining weight is actually really, really hard. Like you have to eat a lot of food to be able to meet the requirements that they're expecting you to gain every week. And eating that much, I don't know, I felt like was like physically impossible sometimes. They had me up before I had the tube, like my meal plan for weight gain, like it was a ridiculous amount that I had to eat, and I struggled lots. So yeah, having just like normal meals supplemented with the NG tube was a lot better. So that's how my meal plans were and how my meals were throughout the day. What I usually did to keep myself occupied since I was on bed rest, I did a lot of like coloring, I did word searches. Eventually, like I was able to have my phone and my iPad. That was like privileges that I earned through eating. If I completed meals, then that would be something that I got like as a reward. So I also had that. Music really helped me. They did allow me to have that a lot of the time, just because they knew that like after meals and throughout the day, that's just something that, I don't know, it was kind of like a coping thing for me. So I had music. I liked doing different crafts, I guess. I did a lot of crocheting. That kind of got limited though, because apparently that was burning too much calories, the arm movement, and it was like hindering my progress, my weight gain progress, which kind of is crazy to me. So yeah, I did lots of crocheting. I have like so much stuff that I made from being inpatient. I taught myself how to knit as well. So just different things like that. That's what I did to keep myself busy. eventually I was allowed to go to some groups. They weren't all that helpful. I don't know. Just because I was on a general psych ward. Lots of the things, like there was like addictions and I don't know, different things like that. But there was other groups that I found, like there was fun groups that I like going to that helped pass the time too. At first they were restricted because it was too much physical activity because there was like different games and stuff. So there'd be like, I don't know, ball tosses and like horseshoes. We did have like bingo, giant Jenga. Sometimes there was movie nights. So yeah, just different groups. Oh, and pet therapy. That was my favorite. When I was on bed rest, they allowed, and I wasn't allowed to go to groups. They brought in the dogs to my room to come see me, which was so great. Yeah, that was my favorite part, was the pet therapy. Pets are always the best and would like cheer me up. So yeah, those were what the groups were typically. Oh, and I should mention too, I was on 2 different units. When I first got to the hospital, I was placed on like the adult unit, but they found that wasn't really working for me, and they moved me to the adolescent unit, even though I was over 18, just because they deal with eating disorders a lot more, so they knew kind of, I don't know, they were more helpful, I guess, and knew how to deal with an eating disorder patient, which I really like the adolescent unit. They did help a lot, even though I wasn't like recovery focused at the time and didn't exactly want to be there. I found it, I don't know, it helped my stay at the hospital like a lot, being on the adolescent unit. The nurses were like the absolute best, and I don't know, they were just like really helpful to me, and we got to know each other really well, especially like being on one-to-one. And the groups too were a little bit better too. There was a lot more groups on the adolescent unit, and I was able to keep busy more. Yeah, it was an overall great unit, I found, but the more times I had to go back to the hospital, eventually they're like, sorry, you're like, we can't keep putting you on the adolescent unit. You're too old. Like, they're like, we know we put you on there before, even though you're over 18. You were 23 when I was 23 when I was on the adolescent unit. But the unit's smaller and they needed that space for the adolescents. So I was not allowed back on the adolescent unit, and I had to be on the adult unit again, which really sucked, I guess, because yeah, that adult unit isn't very fun, and it does get really scary at times. And well, the staff is good there, but I don't know, I just found them a lot better on the adolescent unit. It was just like a whole different vibe, I guess, between the 2 units. So like I said before, I earned privileges through eating. They found that as a good way to like try get me to eat, giving me different rewards, I guess. So yeah, my phone, I had to like work my way up to be able to have it full time. Same with like my iPad. And at first too, my clothes were another thing that I had to earn, as well as on the adult unit, we got, it was a yellow band, and that just meant that you were able to go off the units. You were able to go like leave the unit and stay on hospital grounds like about like 15 minutes at a time, just come back in, like sign in, check in, just make sure like you're still there, and then you could leave again, which was nice. So I got that once I was off bed rest, of course. So I was able to, they had a few groups too that were off the unit, like different crafts, which I enjoyed doing. So I was able to attend those groups. Once I got my yellow band, I was able to leave the unit, which was really nice, because being in your room all day or just like in that confined space, it can kind of drive you crazy. So it was just nice to get out, especially when it was nice out too. I was able to like walk outside, get some fresh air. So yeah, all those things I had to earn through eating and gaining weight and making progress. It was just like little steps, and it was, I guess, I know it's like mixed emotions for me whenever I get a privilege, because, well, especially like the yellow band or getting off bed rest, because that just meant that I was getting better and my weight was increasing. So it was kind of like mixed emotions, like, oh yay, I get to go off unit now, and oh, I don't need to use the wheelchair anymore and I can walk around. But at the same time, it's like, oh, but that just means that I've gained weight. So I don't know, it was a bit of mixed feelings around that, but having those things definitely makes your stay, or well, made my stay a lot better, because when I didn't have anything, and when I'm just in my room without anything, or even like that connection like with my phone to be able to communicate with like friends or family, it makes you like kind of go crazy. Like you're just in your room all day, and I get in my head. So having those things, I guess, push me to eat so I can get those things back, because otherwise, like, I don't know what I do without all those privileges. It made, things a lot easier. And I worked with a dietitian. She would come in, well, she worked 3 days a week, so I'd see her every second day, so Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And she'd come in, she would let me mark up my menu. She'd make sure I had everything, and went through my meal plan with me, adjusted things accordingly, whether I needed to increase my meal plan, or once I reached like my goal weight, then we'd like start decreasing things for maintenance. So she monitored everything. She basically like ran the show. So I met with her 3 days, and she was really great. I've had a few dietitians, and I think she was like the best one. I've been working with her since day one, and she's amazing. And then of course, like a psychiatrist, they would come and see me. It wasn't like every day. Sometimes it was like every day. I don't know, depending on how busy they were. I don't know, sometimes it was like once or twice a week, and they would just come in, check up on me, see if I needed, I don't know, how I was doing, how my mood was. That's basically all that they did. And Oh, and the other thing that I could earn too was passes. So it started off with like passes to go like off the unit completely, like out of the hospital, do whatever. It could be like a couple hours a day, as long as it was in between meals. So I was able, it started off a company passes, so I had to have somebody sign me out, and I could go like in between meals and then just come back. And then by the end of my stay, I was able to have unaccompanied passes, which was really nice because I didn't have to wait for somebody to come and pick me up or like wait for their schedule to work. So I could just sign myself out and just be back for meals. And the other pass that I was able to earn too eventually, once I was off like the feeding tube and everything, was overnight passes, which was so great because sleeping in your own bed is the best. Sometimes you don't get like much sleep when you're in the hospital. The beds aren't the comfiest, and it can get like really loud on the unit between patients and sometimes like nurses and different things that happen anyways. So yeah, it was really nice when I was able to have those overnight passes, and I just had to be back in the morning in time for breakfast. So yeah, those were really nice. And yeah, just being able to be home and yeah, just that comfort. And during meals, or well, not during meals, after meals, I would have to, I wasn't allowed to use the washroom for, it was an hour after I ate a meal and a half hour after I had snack. And eventually that got lifted too, once like I earned more trust and stuff. And same with the one-to-one. I wasn't on one-to-one all the time. The majority of the time I was on one-to-one, but eventually they decreased it. So it was one-to-one, and then I was on, they took it off during the night, and just during the day I had one-to-one, and then it was close obs, so I didn't have anybody sitting with me, but somebody would just check on me like every, I think it was half hour. They would just come and check, make sure like I was still doing okay, wasn't doing anything I shouldn't be. And then eventually like no observation at all. Like I didn't have any supervision, which is really nice because you get some privacy. Also, eventually I was able to do meals by myself too. Like I didn't have somebody sitting across from me watching me eat. I was able to go to the dining room. They would still like stay in the distance, making sure, and after I was like done eating, I would bring my tray to the nurse and make sure like I wasn't hiding food or I ate all my food. They would check it, but I didn't have that like, I don't know, somebody right there watching me. So that was also something I was able to earn, which was nice because yeah, having somebody like sitting directly across from you, just like watching you eat can be really uncomfortable. All this, yeah, I got used to, like it became the normal for me. But yeah, at first it definitely was really uncomfortable. Now I'm just like, whatever, that's just how the rules are. And yeah. Anyways, I'm not too sure what else I can say about like being inpatient on the general psych ward. That's pretty much it. I don't know, it's something that I don't think is that helpful in recovery. If you are wanting to do inpatient or need to go inpatient, I would recommend going to an eating disorder, like some place that specializes in it. Being on just a general ward, it's not exactly that helpful. You don't get a lot of the help that you need. It was basically just for like weight restoration and medical stabilization. So yeah, just getting me medically stable again and getting my weight up. That's basically all I was there for. It didn't really help with like treating those thoughts or anything else like cognitively or the thinking and mindset. It was basically yeah, just a medical thing that I was there for. So yeah, if you're looking to go inpatient, I would definitely recommend a treatment center or some other form of help, because yeah, all that being on the general unit did for me, like my experience there, I don't know, I'm like traumatized of hospitals now. I hate them, and I hate being there, and it just, I don't know, every time I go there I feel like it just makes things worse for me. I don't know, just the way I am treated, I guess. I mean, the staff, I guess they're good, but that's not what they're trained for, is to deal with eating disorder patients. So, like, they're really nice. I'm not trying to like bash them or anything, but I don't know, just the way they do things is just a lot differently than an actual treatment center, and the help that I received between a treatment center and being on a general ward, completely different. Like being inpatient on the psych ward, was not helpful in my recovery at all. If anything, I found it was like, especially like my first time around being there, I felt like it made things worse for me. I don't know, I've learned to accept it, and I don't know, but yeah, just being there just was not a good experience for me. Yeah, it just made me like fear hospitals and fear going back there. And I guess in like a strange way, that's a good thing, because it's just motivating me to stay out of the hospital and want to like keep trying at recovery and keep wanting to recover, because I don't want to go back there. Like, that's how much I hate it. And if I had to go back there another time, like, I don't know what I would do. I would lose it if I had to go back there. So I'm just trying to keep this recovery up and just keep reminding myself of how much like I hate it at the hospital, and how much, and just reminding myself of like what I went through there. So I guess that's like a good motivation for me. But anyways, that was my experience being inpatient in a general hospital. And so thanks for watching through this whole video. Hopefully, I don't know, you can relate to some of these things or take away something from it. I don't know what you could take away from it, actually. It would just kind of be rambling on about inpatient. But anyways, thanks for watching.